Welcome to Schemes and Stones and our first official battle report that's getting released. We've tried to do this about 3 times now.
With mixed results.
Yes. The first one was good. It was M2E and everybody stopped playing basically about the time I started doing it, editing it.
It's poor timing.
And then the second one just had a lot of shaky camera issues and there were logistical other problems with it. It didn't really work very well. And this one, I think we finally got it right. So
I think it's going to be really good.
exactly.
Like
So to get us started, we'll kind of talk about the game. I put it to a vote for the patrons and for the general population on the Schemes and Stones Facebook page. And they voted for us to do Raspy versus Daw. This is probably a couple months ago at this point.
Yeah.
But now we've officially played the game and we're here to talk about the results. So, the first things we're going to look at real fast here is the table. So, this is what our table is going to look like, or what it looked like.
What
This
it
happened.
was.
So, as you can see, this is kind of one of my home boards that I play against. The lighting's a little weird in this because we were playing in the day and it's an open room, so you'll see some shining. I tried to...
Block it as
we
much
blocked
we
it as best as
could.
could, so you can still see everything, but just as an FYI. So as you can see, we play all basically if it's yellow, it's burning hazardous, and a lot of these are just blocking impassable with height 5.
The pipes are climbable.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, it's...
They're height 1 blocking.
Height 1, yeah. And then pretty normal board. Yeah. Pretty well balanced. Like, there's no definitively bad side, I think.
And I think... yeah, that's pretty good coverage of that. So let's move on to the schemes. So I went ahead and posted these, but we played Turf War, and it was, as I said, wedge deployment. We did Outflank, Harness the Ley Line, Assassinate, Claim Jump, and Vendetta.
I think it's a good pool. It's fairly balanced between straight scheming, killing, and the middle of the road. I liked it. I felt... all 5 of them were completely doable with my crew.
Yeah.
Some more favoritive than others, obviously.
And that's why I specifically made this pool. The way we decided the strategy is we both eliminated a couple strategies that are like, I would not play this master into this pool since we already knew what masters we were playing. And that left us, I believe, with Turf War primarily and Cursed Reckoning depending on deployment. Neither of us really wanted to do plants, so we eliminated that. And I just randomly generated. It ended up being Turf War. Then I adjusted a couple of the schemes that were randomly generated, specifically because nobody takes Detonate the Charges. At least not with these lists, generally speaking. So I switched a couple to be generic ones. It's like, oh, Assassinate. Let's make that a
more
thing.
Balanced, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes the game where all 5 of these are things we could potentially do. Now, obviously, the crews are going to be better towards certain ones, and we built towards certain ones, as you'll see very soon. But it kind of gave a option, so it's not like, oh, there's a dead scheme in the pool. All right, so first up, we have my crew. So as you can see, I have Rasputina, I have a Windigo, and a Silent One. Those are the December models. And then the rest of them are Versatile and Tax models. The reason why I brought this crew is because a combination of things, but primarily Daw is an interesting matchup where you kind of need to have a little bit of tech against him, and if you don't, you're going to be in bad shape. Just because the terror checks will just eat your hand really, really fast. So Rasputina already is Ruthless, which is super nice. So I had at least one Ruthless to start with, but then I brought in the Mech Rider. But honestly, the Mech Rider is not an uncommon pick for me in
probably
Rasputina.
Would have done it almost regardless with your Raspy list.
I generally take it anyways, just because the Mech Rider does a few different things that really help Rasputina. First off, Ride With Me, just being able to push her around the table without her having to spin AP to walk is super handy. Well, yeah, she has really long range. She still does need to move a little bit, and generally I don't like to do it with her specifically. I'd rather have another model do it, so that's the primary function it does. But it also can give suits to everybody, and it doesn't show it in this picture. I actually took Soulstone Cash on the Mech Rider. I forgot to put it for this picture. The funny thing is, I didn't actually use it the entire game.
No, you really didn't.
None of it came up, actually. But it's on there for basically turn 1 or 2. I can easily give mask to everybody. So then Rasputina can chain attack if she needs to, which is a big deal against Daw, because Daw, you just do a lot of attacks against him to kill him, as opposed to big focus shots. And Raspi, being ruthless, can take 6 shots potentially in the turn and kill him in one go if you get the right circumstances. Now, the game did not end up turning out that way, but we'll get to that as we play. Mech Rider is also ruthless too, which is nice against Jackdaw, so it's just like, oh, cool, another ruthless model. And then Joss is probably the weird pick here. Again, he's just a good model. He's ruthless. He does irreducible damage, which will come up. And the extra push is super nice with staggered being a thing in his crew, pretty common, because just that extra movement helps me from being dead in the water, so to speak, which I have had happen.
Gets you out of the tar pit models, of which Jackdaw is known for tar pit models.
Exactly. And I took Diesel Engine because I knew he has a lot of attacks where he needs to attach upgrades to me, and if I have Diesel Engine up for the first couple turns, it makes him more inefficient as far as doing it. He can still do it, but it makes him inefficient, so it helps.
It hurt. It was bad.
And Charge Through helped. Charge Through, as we'll get to, definitely helped. And then the Miners I took in this because, well, Outflank and Clang Jump were things I want to at least threaten that I can do easily with the Miners. Plus, they just generate a lot of stones, and I have 3 models that are going to be doing the heavy lifting in this crew. So, and all of them are Soulstone users. The Mech Rider because of Soulstone Cache, that is. And then, of course, Joss and Raspy do innately.
You went through, spoilers, I guess, you went through, 14 or 15 stones over the course of the game?
Maybe. Normally they die, to be fair.
Right, I just could never hit them with anything I had. But I lost count at, 11, I think, and then I just stopped caring about the massive amount of soulstones you were burning.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Then the silent one is just there for some ranged attacks. She's also a healer, so she helps heal the crew.
Extra pillar.
And she generates extra pillars for me. Windigo is free. Significant model. He also can do pillars for you, too. So that's basically my crew, and now let's jump to the Daw list. I'll let Brian kind of cover his models.
So I went with a pretty different Daw crew than what I would normally bring, but I felt I really needed to tech into the Raspy idea. So obviously I had Daw with Servant of Darker Powers. I think it's stapled to his card. In my opinion, then the Totem, obviously I have a Hanged, because they're just good all-around models, assuming your opponent doesn't have Ruthless. So that didn't work. But they're incorporeal. They're generally pretty difficult to kill, ignoring that Ruthless idea. I brought 2 Guilty because I wanted to tar pit things, and they're big bases, so you can block line of sight to the pillars. So Raspy, when she's trying to arc through, I can hide things behind my Guilty and hopefully have them absorb the hits. They're defense 6, hard to wound. So then it's very difficult to blast off of them because of that hard to wound. And then, and we'll talk about this with deployment, I purposely picked a side that was going to give me a lot of easy access to cover.
One small problem. You can't hide behind a Guilty because the ice pillars are height 4, so they see over things. I don't know if you thought about that or not.
I mean, right, going into it, this was the idea, at least, was to block line of sight. Now, the whole height 4 thing prevents that, but the theory in the crafting. Monty is an auto bring in with Daw because Monty is super great. He is the best tar pit ever, which will come up. And then as my more tech picks, I brought Mad Dog Bracket out of Keyword because he has Blow It to Hell to remove destructible terrain and make models near that marker ignore cover. So he can pick off the ice pillars. Also, he's just a really good gun. His gun ignores armor. So I'm like, well, if I can get some free shots at the miners, he's clearly at least bluffing out flank. If I can pick off his flankers, maybe it's worth it. And then I brought the Frycore Engineer out of Keyword, mostly for the kind of cute thing of the bonus action on Mask Trigger. I can give out Concealment. So my idea was, well, if we go with the engineer early, I get tools for the job, I can cycle some cards. It's nice, but I can give Jackdaw concealment and shielded to semi-shut down the whole Raspy attack thing. Because you hit onslaught on me while you're on an inherent minus. So even though you have a ton of stones, if you want to burn 6 stones to get all your attacks off, yada yada yada, fine, go ahead and do it. And with shielded and stones, I'm going to consistently not take a lot of damage. So I figured it's a tech pick. Also, the engineer just has it's a good gun. So for that Vendetta idea, it's a 6-stone model, pretty good gun. It can focus itself using that bonus action if I really need to. And it can give itself built-in crit if I do tools of the job. Like, I can try Vendetta with it, and we'll see what happens. So going into deployment, I suppose, I won the flip. So I had to split, and I picked the side with all of the pipes, because I was thinking, well, I have a bunch of defense 6 hard-to-wound models. I can stack up on these pipes. That's cover, plus the defense. It's going to make it really hard for Raspy to hit me. And again, going off the false idea that I can hide from the ice pillars, then I could hide the rest of my crew and work my way forward. But I split my crew up as Monty, Mad Dog, Guilty, and the Totem, and then the other group is Guilty, Hanged, Engineer, and Daw.
Yeah, and I made him deploy Jackdaw first because I wanted to know where Daw was going to be, and the others, well, annoying, not as important to know that.
Right.
So he ended up deploying, and we don't have picks from his first deploy, but we have his final deploy. So here we have the pick of my deployment. As you can see, all my stuff is right there. I kind of backed off a little bit off the wedge just because I know he tends to come in
I play the
fast
aggressive
and
game.
heavy. Yeah, generally speaking. Although, interestingly enough, this was pretty defensive first couple rounds. But I think we both played the matchup, and obviously we have tech picks against each other.
We've played this matchup, I think, at least 4 times previous
Something
to
like
this
that.
Game. So we've seen a lot of each other's tricks, and while the lists were different, it was very obvious what we were doing.
Yes, the models were clear as far as like what the models
the tech
were
picks, why you're bringing it. So you pulled a little bit back, and I played it very less aggressive than my ideal would be. So final deployment for me, I was fairly clumped up, but I figured you would have to send Raspy out really far ahead if you wanted to actually start putting shots in which case I'll absorb some hits and then my entire crew collapses on Raspy.
Yeah.
And if the miracle of killing Raspy turn 1 happens, I win the game and we can call it. But obviously that wasn't going to happen, but, you know, a guy can dream, right?
Sure. Also, you don't see the second Soulstone Miner in the corner just because I angled it wrong. So, in my shot, it was there. It was just far in the corner.
He actually started it buried. He was cheating. No,
no it wasn't because it, as we'll get into in a minute.
Bury, yeah.
So, for referencing purposes, we did Daw side, Raspy side, and then we did north and south. So, generally speaking, north is towards the top of your screen for this picture right now, and south is towards the bottom. So if we reference that, that's what that means when we say north and south. All right, so the first thing we see here is my hand. So actually a pretty good hand to start with. A little bit, strangely enough, this is a little better of a hand than I would like with Raspy, because I don't expect a lot of attacking first round, although wedge is closer, so it's different. But I actually like to have a bunch of 5s generally the first round with Raspy and maybe a couple high cards, because all I want to do generally is do a lot of pillaring and bearing and stuff like that, and generally only need like those 5s and 6s and just get those out of the deck and then have some low cards I can throw back or I can discard so they're not in my deck for round 2 when I'm actually going to be shooting and doing attacks and stuff like that. That being said, I was happy with this because that meant I could guarantee get a couple pillars out without having to waste extra actions.
There had a lot of guaranteed actions here.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what it ended up being. And then we switch to the Outcast hand.
And I was perfectly fine with this. Obviously, like, the 2 Severes is great, but more importantly, I had 2 of Mask. I could discard for Tools of the Job to get the built-in Mask, and then I had an 8. I could cheat in if I needed to for the Concealment, Strength, and Armor from the Engineer. And other than that, like, a couple low cards to ditch for attacks on Daw, and then a couple high cards to obviously do whatever you need. You know, pretty solid hand all around. Can't complain.
Yep. All right, so then we have the deployment flip happened, and... Or sorry, not the deployment flip. We were past that. The initiative flip happened. Sorry.
We did that on our recording as well. Initiative flip, I won and elected to have the Arcanist go first. However, for start of game effects, Jackdaw gets to push 6 inches.
And that's what you see here. And for future reference, whenever you see those like white bases, that's where the model started.
Right.
So that's all that's there to signify is where the model started, and then where it ended is where the model ends. So that is that. And this is, as you said, the Servant of Darker Powers push. And then also I got a pass token to start with. The Mech Rider got a Fate token, and then my Miner got shielded from Magical Training upgrade. And that was basically the start of the game. Then we have the first activation actually happening here. I have a Silent One go, and I just throw out 2 pillars, which is pretty standard practice. A lot of times I'll have to walk and throw out, but since Wedge is closer, I just put 2 pillars out. Obviously, they're both close to Raspy, so Raspy can get in range of them. I believe they were both in range of Raspy where they're at.
I think they both were, yeah.
As I recall. But I also was going to move around with the Mech Rider potentially, so if one was a little out, that's why it was.
I went with the Engineer because that was the whole reason I wanted it. So I picked up a 6 of Ram I used for that flip for initiative, put the 2 of Masks down, walked, gave concealment, and shielded to Daw, and then claimed the turf marker because points.
Yeah.
And then started setting up to keep Daw safe, but also be able to start actually using him aggressively, get some upgrades out, or curses, I should say, early on.
Yep. So then I went with my standard Soulstone Miner, and he stunned himself so he could get the extra Soulstone. Then he did focus, and then he tried to bury himself, and this is where I flipped my Black Joker to start the game.
Pretty ideal.
Not ideal, because then that puts him around behind.
Sure,
for deployment.
But like, of all of the Black Jokers you could have flipped, probably one of the best ones.
I'd rather ride by me black it, because at this round
okay, sure.
But it actually kind of does matter, because it forced me to have to do some different positioning, because I wouldn't have my Miner in position necessarily turn 2, so I had to do it turn 3. Yeah, so it actually was kind of annoying to have it happen that way. But, that's pretty standard fare for me to Black Joker important stuff.
Yeah. I was just trying to kind of waste activation, so I had my Guilty walk, claim the turf marker. I want to hold both of them early, because I'm hoping I can kind of grind out a win, and my stuff generally is hard to kill, or difficult to kill, I should say. So, hold them early and be able to throw everything forward, because I don't want to have to keep worrying about them.
Yep. So then next off we have my other Miner, does the exact same thing, gives me a Soul Stone, focuses, and this one successfully does bury. So, surprise, surprise, at least one's buried.
From here, I start trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm figuring, cover is good, so the Guilty drops a scheme marker for Mad Dog. Mad Dog eats scheme markers to go fast, and then just walks forward into that piping to get cover and start kind of affecting the board eventually. Yeah. Doesn't get too far out of deployment, but starts setting up potentially for later on.
And of course, this is the chair Guilty, if you're confused.
Oh, yeah, there. Electric chair. And
again, there's the terrible bare plastic that you see back there.
I mean, it happens. It's a thing.
All right, next up we have the Windigo. Does a pretty basic turn. It just walks up and claims the marker on the south side for me, on my side. And that's pretty much all it did.
Man, significant totems are really good.
They're not bad.
Completely unfair. So I go with the Hanged, and the Hanged is the one I'm kind of most worried about just getting slaughtered by Raspy. So I double walk him into the lava, incorporeal. I'm immune to it, and I figure he's going to kind of run up the flank, bluff outflank potentially, counter his outflank, or he put that Wendigo on that side near the turf marker. He'll swing into the Wendigo potentially. Mm-hmm. So he just double walks.
Yep.
He's getting ready.
Which I was kind of surprised because normally in our past games you've been a lot more aggressive with the Hang. So the fact that he swung out wide, I was like, interesting. I mean, he'll still be a threat, but he's going to be less relevant early.
It was one I was very worried about.
Sure.
You just, like, the actual one-shotting him because his soul defensive capabilities are terrifying and soul stones. Well, you're always going to hit him because he's defense 4 with Raspy. You're ruthless, so the terrifying doesn't matter. Yeah. So then I don't want to lose an 8-stone model or have to spend all 4 of my soul stones to keep him up at like 2 wounds maybe, and it's just not worth it. So I figured we'll go play the slow game in essence, and it was better off.
Okay. So next up we have the Mech Rider, who doesn't look like it moved much, but it actually did, as you can see the bases in the bottom there.
Little nudging.
Yeah, the big one, it basically walked over to the claim marker, claimed it, and then rode with me back. Raspy was within 2 inches when I did it, and then I pulled Raspy up a little bit. Didn't want to position too far forward because that put Raspy in clear shot range for pillars and the fire into his crew as needed. And then I was trying to wait on her a little bit later in the turn, so all of his stuff would have to either sit back and do nothing or come into me, and then I'd have more shot targets to potentially go after. And that was the Mech Rider's turn.
So from here, I go with Monty. I pull him up, try to get him into cover again, because Monty's really important for the full synergy of the DAW crew. And then I had him just in range to obey the Hanged, so he used his Tormented Obey on the Hanged to get the Hanged to walk more. So I felt incredibly safe with the Hanged, also extra movement to be able to charge up that.
It's hard to see, but the Hanged is there.
Yeah,
in the
just
lava
behind
there.
in the lava behind the factory green thing. I don't know, whatever that is called. Yeah. And it's in the lava up there.
And the white base thing is where it started. I know it's kind of hard to tell in that shot, but yeah. All right, so next up we have Joss, who didn't really do much. He just charged forward, so he generated a power token, and then he focuses, and just kind of, I don't want to, there's that weird dead zone, and I didn't want to throw him in there just to get attacked. Very cautious.
It was very much of a, no, hey, you should go first. You should come in first. No, you should do it. No, you, and
thankfully I outrange you.
Right, you outrange me by 20 inches, so you won that engagement battle fairly handily.
I did, but at the same time, I didn't. You had enough high cards that it didn't matter too much.
And then I manipulated the cover to my advantage.
Yeah.
So I went with the totem. I moved her slightly and focused. I don't want her to die right away just because her sheet aura is really useful when it is relevant. It never became relevant.
Yeah, this game it came up like one action. There was one activation, but it was like at the start of the round, so I had extra
never
cards,
mattered because you just inherently hit me with everything you did. But yeah, so she just walked and focused.
And this is where I passed. I just passed after this because I was still trying to hold off my Raspy activation until you did as much as possible.
Yeah. So I went with Mad Dog at this point because I was saving DAW for after Raspy just to see where Raspy went and to go with it. So the picture, it's kind of funny. It looks like Mad Dog hasn't really done anything, but Mad Dog activated, picked up the scheme marker to go fast, walked forward, did Blow It to Hell to remove one of the ice pillars that the Silent One had placed out more towards the center of the board, then had moved back and
dropped another marker.
Dropped a marker. So he didn't really do a ton, and he focused, I believed, as well, to be able to prep for
Very cautious play on his
Right.
part.
I thought
it was annoying though. Like
right,
that pillar was the one I was gonna use.
Exactly. And I really thought about putting him up in the open and started blasting into Joss, but Joss has diesel engine and concealment, so I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to burn all my stones, and I need my stones for defensive tech. Yeah. So I held it, didn't do much.
Sure. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Then I finally had to go with Rasp because I was out of activations at this point. Raspy didn't do a ton. She just created a pillar, basically put the pillar back up where it was, or roughly where it was. She then just focused and took a shot through the pillar at Mad Dog, and unfortunately he just, because he had either had a high card and cover or something like that, yeah, and I just wasn't able to. I was hoping, is my highest card, as you recall, was at 11, I believe.
11, yeah.
And I was hoping that I flipped high enough, yeah, and he just cheated above me, so. Raspy didn't pull a whole lot turn 1, unfortunately.
It was nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So that goes into Jackdaw. Again, there was no real good target for Jackdaw to start being aggressive with, unfortunately. Kyle kept all of his models back, and I didn't want to send Daw up, so Daw just moves. Bonus action, drawn to Betrayal to have a guilty push 6 inches, get the guilty a little forward off the turf marker, the cross one, and then spend an action to focus and drop a scheme marker. I figured if Mad Dog ever comes over to this side of the board, there's a scheme waiting for him to eat to go fast, and then focus so I can start pushing through the concealment aura that he was cowering in from Joss.
And so that was the end of the round, and here's kind of like a headshot. Unfortunately, I did not get any more shots like this.
Yeah.
This is the challenge of doing these battle reports, because you're trying to be competitive and actually play the game, but at the same time you're trying to log everything and make sure you're keeping track of everything.
Basically, Kyle's making excuses.
Yes, exactly.
For saying he's distracted.
So, a little distracted on later shots, but here we are good, and you can kind of see the layout of the board, where everybody's at.
Very clumped up.
Very clumped up in both regards, which is good for Raspy. And then, of course, I have my guys that are off to the sides, and then the one buried guy. All right, so then we go into round 2. So first thing I'm going to show here are the hands. So this was my hands. This one was, I believe the 11 was still a carryover from the last round.
Yeah.
Because that was the same one. The 12s, I believe I drew, and then maybe one of the 10s I still have from last round. I ended up discarding 2 cards. I discarded a 2 and an 8, I recall. I think I kept the 11.
Pretty good hand.
No, it was a very good hand, turn 2. Again, turn 2, I got a little work done, but it wasn't until late in the round, as we'll get to. Then we go to the Outcast hand.
Pretty average hand.
He calls this average. This is above average, guys.
I'll rephrase. This is the hand where
average for Brien.
I would have liked a low card to discard it for Tools of the Job with the Engineer. So I had to keep the 9 of masks from last turn because I needed a mask for the concealment. Ideally, I draw a low mask is the perfect dream, but a low card for Tools of the Job because I have a mask I can cheat anyway. So now for utility, I can keep good cards in my hand. But yeah, no, it's a good hand. I just unfortunately used most of it right away.
Gotcha. So the start of the turn stuff happens. I end up losing initiative. You cheated a 13
to make sure you go first. I cheated that 13 so I can make sure I go first. I wanted to make sure Dahl was not going to get nuked out. So it's a very expensive way to do it, but cheat the 13 in, activate the Engineer Tools for the Job, picks it back up, discards the 8 of Tomes. I then do my bonus action to strengthen armor on Daw. I cheat that 9 of masks to give him concealment and the shielded. So it cost a bunch of cards to do it. However, I get Daw in a very survivable position, and now I at least have a round where he can be super aggressive. And then I walk and focus, putting myself in cover again, out of blasting range as well. If you hit Engineer, you can't go into Daw.
Yeah. And also, I got a pass token as well for this round.
Oh, yeah.
And then my Mech Rider generated 2 more fate tokens. I didn't spend one round 1, so I'm at 3 now. And then the minor gain shielded back, which dropped, then came back. So I end up doing my first pass token right away because, I want him to come towards me. And I figured might as well use it now. I don't think +1 initiative is going to matter too much at this point. I think it's more important when you have 2 or 3, but I decided to go ahead and chuck it.
Yep. So I just went with one of my hanged, the
Your
cross
guilty, you mean?
Or, yeah, excuse me, the guilty, the cross one. It just walked and claimed the center marker. I figured I needed to get there anyway. There wasn't any good, ideal target, so might as well take it. I tried to bonus action onto Joss. It's a forced discard, and if they have an upgrade, they gain staggered, so staggering Joss is obviously good because Joss is scary. With concealment, it was a minus flip. I figured I can maybe force him to cheat out a card to dodge it, because he doesn't want auto staggered, because staggered's really bad in basically any situation. I black jokered it. I didn't care. It wasn't a flip I was putting any faith in. It was more like maybe we can force him to cheat a mid-tier card out. So
yeah, it was a good time to hit a black joker.
Right, it was the ideal black joker for me in the situation. But then I had 3 markers. I figured it'll be very hard for Kyle to deny me at least my first and second turf point, and if he does, that means I've very much lost the game already.
All right, so I went with my miner who failed last round, did the same stunning for a soul stone, focused and buried. This time he was successful.
And I'm looking at him like, well, his entire crew is clumped together. Mad Dog can ignore armor or blast. I happen to have a high ram in hand. That's the trigger for Mad Dog that gives him extra blasts on his gun. We have a focus. We can go in, and with the blow it to hell, blow it apart, whatever it's called, I can ignore cover. So Mad Dog goes fast because that scheme marker, walks forward, and is going to bonus action blow it to hell to make Joss not have cover. I fail that flip, and I elected not to cheat another one of my very precious cards at that point. Going into this activation, I only had 3 cards left. I would have had to cheat. It would have been an 8, I believe, to have this go off, and I would have only had a 10 and
12 left, I think, or something like that.
The 12 left, I think. That sounds right. And I just I didn't feel comfortable doing that, so it fails, which becomes kind of important. I still charge in with Mad Dog, spend my focus. I end up having to cheat to hit. I cheat that 12, declare the ram trigger to get extra blasting, and because he still had cover, it was a minus flip. So I did 3 damage to Joss, and then blasted onto the Silent One, Raspy, and the Rider, all for 1 damage, because it's min damage, and then blasting off that is always 1. Unfortunately, you stoned on Joss for no damage, and then minimal damage everywhere else. I was really hoping... Yeah, had you not had the cover, it would have been a straight flip at worst. I'm probably going to hit... I
probably would have blocked it.
You would have blocked, but I was going to make you spend more resources.
Yeah, it would cost more resources.
If I can burn out all of your stones, let's say turn 2, it's good to not have you have resources.
Sure.
And then I just walked back because I didn't want Mad Dog to get wasted. It was kind of a waste of an activation. I needed more damage to get put out, because that became the common theme for my game, was I wasn't doing damage to anything.
Well, to be fair, I wasn't really doing any damage either. It wasn't until later that I started actually doing it.
That's fair.
So here I go with Mech Rider. The Mech Rider just does the Revel in Creation right away, throws out a corpse marker for something to eat to heal itself if needed, and I discard all 3 of my fate tokens so I could give out mass to everybody, so Raspy can unload as needed this round. So it kind of put out that threat, so now he has to be very, very worried about Raspy getting maybe 6 shots off this round. Otherwise, it just walked a little bit forward and focused, just kind of setting up for Daw to come in. It was kind of like, hey, once Daw comes in, I can counterpunch you. Plus, I made sure to keep it in the diesel engine aura, so it's just a little bit harder for Daw to come in. So
That diesel engine was so annoying for this because having to wait and focus and get one shot off, it was so slow to do anything. It was crippling.
That was my goal of success.
Yeah, it was good. I went the Hanged. I had him double walk. I was trying to figure out a way I could threaten and bluff out flank. So he double walked out to be out of range from Raspy, potentially, and then bonus actioned at the Wendigo, trying to give it an upgrade. The Hang's upgrade makes you disc a card and get moved by your opponent, so me in that regard. I missed it. I couldn't hit anything. I think you just like naturally flipped like a 10 or something, and I wasn't going to cheat a severe to put an upgrade out, and I didn't have a trigger that actually mattered.
I want to take a quick note here, and I think this was super helpful for me and harmful for you that you burned so many cards giving Daw concealment, because it made you just miss a lot of things, which that would have made differences, but you're just like, I can't afford to cheat this.
Yeah, it was...
And this is one of those things where it's like, it would have been super handy to hit it, but I'm glad you did it.
Right. It was one while, like, reflecting on the game, the engineer, counter pick in essence, for the concealment and the shielded, it was cute. I think it was too efficient, because then you would never attack Daw when it was there.
And, well, that's basically what happened. I didn't attack him till later.
Which meant that you're not attacking him, but you're attacking everything else. And I want attacks going into Daw, because Daw's supposed to, like, tarp it in his own right. Yeah. But then I lost all those resources to not really have anything happen. I couldn't have Daw attack anything, because I couldn't hit anything because of concealment. I couldn't get upgrades out. There was nothing I could do. So even though Daw was alive, he didn't do anything ever. So it didn't matter. Yeah.
So this triggered my response action. Now that the Windigo was clear and there are no threats over there, being a 6-walk model, it's pretty fast. It just shot towards the corner, obviously setting up to at least threaten outflank, if not do it, depending on if I have it or not. Mm-hmm. Both of the models kind of in that position to kind of threaten that as a possibility. Although it looks like yours is just out.
Yeah, and well, it was one it was very much like a bluff kind of. Yeah. And like if you check it, it's not there. Oh, maybe I'm setting up there, and with the 4-inch walk, I physically couldn't have gotten there anyway. Oh, so I figured you would see, he can't physically get there. He's setting up for it. Yeah. The kind of mind game aspect of it. I went with the chair guilty and was looking at just getting up, trying to, in essence, log jamming myself up in the center, but trying to push forward.
It's a good model to absorb hits.
The guilty,
so it's like you throw it in first. If the opponent's dumb and throws attacks into it, you don't care.
Right. And I do basically the same thing. I bonus action to attack Joss. I miss again because of the concealment aura. Again, it's just like, hey, maybe I'll get lucky, and I'll force him to, cheat over it because he doesn't want to discard a card and gain staggered.
Yeah. So the silent one then goes.
Just saying.
The silent one focuses and takes a shot at Mad Dog through the pillar. I am able to successfully hit him in this time, and I do 1 damage and slow him. And it was more the slow that I was going for. I figured I wasn't likely to do a high amount of damage. I would take it if I did it,
slow
but the slow was key.
Crazy good. And this is kind of where I start feeling that I'm going to start the game sliding down.
Well, you're playing my game at this point. Right. The game's going the way I want it.
So I start looking at ways to start, not necessarily desperation plays, but let's go big or go home. So I go with Monty, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, well, we don't want Joss doing Joss things. Guilty are great tar pits, because if you kill them, I improve myself. So I obey the chair guilty to charge Joss. I hit him, but you soulstone and prevent the damage. It's whatever. The guilt is just in your face, and then Monty walks over the pipes, still into cover, but just, again, slowly moving forward, getting his staggered aura up, and trying to project threat out.
Mm-hmm. So this is when I felt like it was time for Raspy to try to go off. And Raspy, unfortunately, I didn't want to have to chuck a ton of cards. And the targets I were wanting to attack weren't in range otherwise. So I had to burn an action walking, unfortunately, which I don't like to do. But I figured I can still potentially get 4 attacks, so let's do this. And then I started going into Monty. I'm like, I can't really, because Daw is shielded, concealed, and all that stuff. At this point, like you said earlier, it just made me not want to shoot at him because it was going to be so much resources. Whereas Monty was a better target at this point. Unfortunately, my first attack, I Black Joker the damage, so no damage. I did still do the overpower trigger, and that attack went through and did 2 damage. And then I attacked the third AP I had, my third action, I should say, and it just missed because I think you had a 13 or something. I think you maybe flipped it. I think you flipped a 13 or something.
I flipped a severe, and then with cover, Monty's defense 7, and I think you technically might have been able to cheat and hit me, but it wasn't. It was at best. It was going to be like a triple negative.
No, I think you're out of range because I think the highest I had was a 12, and I was an 18. I think you had a 19.
Okay,
because I remember it was one of those. I was just like, I would have cheated it if it was in range. So I think it was just a 19. I'm just like, I can't hit that. Okay, I guess Raspy will have a second turn of not really doing much of anything.
So I went with Daw at this point, and I figured I had to start doing something, and again, things were out of range. There wasn't necessarily good targets, but getting staggered out on the Mech Rider, slow it down, maybe be able to chunk into it next turn. So Daw walks, attacks the Mech Rider, spends focus to get around concealment, hits him, attaches his upgrade out to make it a tormented model, give it staggered at the start phase, and then I focused, and I think leaving him in the middle was probably an incredibly stupid decision, retrospectively. That forces me to have to go with the engineer top of turn 3 to put concealment and shielded back onto him. So it very much telegraphed that, and it would make me spend all of those resources.
Or go with Daw and...
Right. And so I think I should have at least hit him, but at that point, because there's an ice pillar, and that gives you basically universal range, there's nothing I could have done. And so I think the engineer, that it was a trap because I'm obligated to use it then.
Yeah. And it should be noted here that he positioned to be just out of an inch of that ice pillar. So he's not actually going to be affected by that. It was like a hair out of it. So the Soulstone Miner, the first one that successfully buried, the other one just buried this round, pops out in outflank position. As I mentioned earlier, I am obviously setting up for outflank, and it's annoying that I couldn't pop both of them out in the flanks. That's why the Windigo, I was really nervous when you attacked it, and I'm like, oh, this could be really bad because now I'm going to be a turn behind on that scoring. Thankfully, it lived, and now this one pops out. Otherwise, it did its normal, stunned itself for a Soul Stone, pops out, and then just focused because there was nothing else for it to do at this point. And it was in a position I needed it to be.
So this is continuing with we need to make big plays and make things happen. The lady, I have her walk forward and attack the guilty. Tormented models have a very special rule based on a guilty ability that lets them treat guilty as enemy models, so they can, in essence, blast off them. The lady's ranged attack has blasts and auto give out staggered. So I was trying to give staggered to Joss to prevent him from coming in. And I messed this up. I had focus on lady already, and I declared I was using it, and then when I flipped, I just didn't flip.
And normally I would have been fine if you didn't flip anything else, but then you immediately flip the attack, and you're like, wait, I'm supposed to spin focus, and it's like, well, that changes
my
flips.
My mind was running faster than, like, the rest of me, so I thought I'd already done the correct flips, and we couldn't walk it back, so instead of...
I mean, we could have, but...
if we're trying... I'm trying to do it as... in as much of a tournament setting as possible, so I'm not going to take it back. And what went from a guaranteed, I would have to cheat the cards, but a guaranteed blasting off the guilty turned into, well, you're still hard to wound, so it's a minus flip. Let's let's pray and we get lucky, and I
Just
don't
weak,
do
I
it.
think,
I just hit weak damage, so I dealt 2 damage to my guilty and did nothing. It allows Joss now, he has a full activation with unimpeded movement, in essence, to do whatever he wants.
Sure. So Joss then activates. He swings around, as you can see the start of his walk. He walks around to the other side of the guilty, and then he does his bonus 2 push, which he does because he has power tokens, and then he charges into Monty. And because I had a full hand, because Raspy, you kept hitting high cards, so I didn't need any of the cards to cheat, and nothing else really relevant happened, I had all my high cards for this. And I kind of just unload into him. I ended up burning focus on the first attack, or for the charge attack, and I top-decked the red Joker, so it was a 20-8. Plus I had charge through because of diesel engine, so I was a double positive flip to hit you because of the focus and that, and the difference. And I declared crit strike because
Red Joker,
I had a red Joker, and did 6 irreducible damage to Monty.
Yeah.
So kind of put him in his place, and because it's irreducible, you can't stone it or anything like that. And that was the end of the second turn. I felt pretty good at this point, so I'm like, all right, I hit one of his main targets pretty hard. Now, I didn't realize how annoying Hard to Kill with Eternal combined was going to be.
It was humorous.
In combination with a defense of 6, but we'll get to that in a minute. As far as the scoring, unfortunately, again, like I said, I apologize, I didn't have a end of turn shot to see the whole board, but I think most of the models are right here, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty much
other
what
than
this
the couple
is.
things on the flanks.
Daw, you can just see behind the larger
his
stone,
ropes sitting out.
And then the Hanged and the Wendigo
are
behind
over,
the picture, in essence.
And then other than
the
that, it's miners, which are all over the place, depending.
Yeah.
Score at this point was Turf War 1 for both of us, and I got outflanked as I actually declared outflank. So it ended up being 2-1 at this point.
Going into that round 3.
Then we go into round 3. Now, I forgot to get pictures of cards on this one.
Forgot to grab hand quality on that, but my hand was fairly good at a number of larger cards. It didn't end up doing anything for me, but we'll talk about that.
My hand was fairly average. I don't recall it being particularly good or bad. I think I had like a fairly average down hand, and I may have been able to keep like a couple of those 10s from the previous round. So something like that. But anyways, we both flip. He won the initial flip, and then I cheated in an 8 because I was debating dropping in like a 12, I think, just to guarantee as I really wanted to go first. But I'm like, you know what? He flipped a 7. I know he really needs his cards. I'm just going to cheat 1 above it, and if he really wants it, he's going to go to a 5-card hand and then probably take 2 actions to discard cards maybe immediately. So it's like really going to put him in a crappy spot. So I'm like, you know what? Go ahead and do it. I'll cheat in the 8. You didn't cheat, so I got to go first.
I didn't have the cards to make it practical. So I'm like, well, we'll just have to see if we can live.
So Mech Rider then, of course, generated 3 fate tokens. She was also staggered. It kicked on at that point. I still got a pass token because nothing had died at this point. Nothing dies yet. And then Miner, of course, gets shielded back on it. I ended up going with Raspy right away. I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to try to go off with her before anything else happens, before any other disruption goes off, any of that sort of thing. So, and Dahl was in position. You didn't have concealment on me, or on him. So Raspy, unfortunately, has to again move because I would have to chuck a card every time I attacked through because I was wanting to do a bunch of onslaught triggers. And I think I had a couple high mask in hand. And I'm just like, I don't want to have to chuck more cards. I just want to be able to hit these every time. So I ended up attacking Dahl. I did 1 damage off the first one. You just stoned it instead of discarding a card. And it was 2 damage, but you only stoned and prevented 1.
Yep.
I then triggered again to attack. I did 1 damage. This time you did discard a card to reduce it from whatever it was. I think it was just 2 damage.
I think... No, I think...
Or maybe it was a higher one.
This was at least moderate, I think.
It was maybe moderate. Yeah,
because otherwise...
I may have just flipped it or whatever.
Because...
So. I don't think I cheated
at min 2, I would have just stoned it because I want to preserve hand strength. So I think it was moderate, at least.
Gotcha. So then I took my second attack, third action, and basically did the same thing again. I did more damage, you discarded, put it to 1,
Yeah.
and then I Black Jokered, again, the final attack. Now Black Jokering 2 attacks in the game. Pretty standard for Kyle to Black Joker at Master Shots.
Yeah.
This was relatively important because at this point it's like, I'm going to go into Daw. I'm going to try to put Daw down because I was in position. I thought, okay, if I can get him low, I know he's going to heal a little bit probably, but if I can get him low and if I don't quite kill you, I had Assassinate, as we'll get to in a minute. So I'm like, if I can almost kill you but not kill you, then I'm going to get 1 point for Assassinate regardless. So I'll go either way. I'll either go the full blow and kill him if I can, or if you do everything you can to keep him alive, hopefully he'll at least be at half.
Yeah.
So then I can at least score that point. And that was my theory.
So then I went with Monty. One, I was, he wasn't going to be able to kill Monty straight out because of Eternal and Hard to Kill, which would proc twice. But I figured if Monty goes, I can attack Joss, give Joss staggered at that point, which will make the rest of my crew easier to get rid of him. He's in the middle of my crew. And Monty attacks twice and hits him because I'm attacking your movement and deals no damage between Soul Stones and Stones, which was terrible.
Armor and Soul Stones.
Armor and Soul Stones, thank you. Because Monty's trigger that gives out staggers is very explicit that it's after damaging. And we were talking about this, that most triggers in the game don't have that stipulation. Like, oh, you hit gain slow. Except the Tormented models almost universally are all after damaging, gain staggered. Which at that point crippled Monty, so I couldn't get staggered out, which means I really couldn't effectively hit Joss or do damage to him, and Joss was still at full capabilities, and Monty just did nothing, which became a pretty good theme throughout the rest of the game.
He tar-pitted like a beast.
Arguably so did Joss. Because Joss took...
That's still pretty good.
Right. I mean, we'll add it up, but
Yeah.
Joss took like 12 attacks and...
It's revenge.
Didn't
for
die.
Previous games.
Sure.
So Mech Rider then went again, trying to put as much pressure on Dahl before he can get a lot of healing off or get a lot of defensive tech up and going. So I end up bonus actioning to push up next to him. I am staggered anyway, so I figured I could use the extra movement. I end up grabbing the silent one as well, as I figured I'll pull you up a little bit as well, whatever. Then I attacked, I believe, I had focused previously, so then I burned the focus and I attacked. I end up doing 1 damage because of your discarding ability. I burn a couple fate tokens to draw a couple cards to try to rebuild my hand. I think I drew pretty bad on these. So I remember drawing, I'm like, woo, a couple low cards.
Hey, but you're not
cards
flipping
are
them
cards. Yeah, exactly. And then Dahl was at 2 health after this. Yeah. I took another attack. This one you just cheated a 13. That's that 13 that you had. You finally used it because you're starting to get low on resources and you're starting to probably get a little worried.
Right. And it was one of those, well, I can cheat this and make you hit me, or I'll let you hit me and I'm going to end up having to discard a 13 to take 1 damage. Yeah. At that point, it's better to...
Yeah.
I'll make you work for it.
Yeah.
So you miss, and at this point I decide to go with Daw. He's about to die. I need to do something with him before he dies. I gain slow from the pillar because I got pushed into it.
Yeah, I didn't mention that earlier. When Raspi kept nuking, I pushed him so he'd be in
into that 1 inch. I didn't discard the cards. Cards are a premium. I used his bonus action to draw a card based on the number of cursed upgrades around him, or models with cursed upgrades. And instead of drawing the card, I can heal him 1. And I did that. And this is where not doing damage was really hurting me. Normally when Tormented models damage models with upgrades, they can draw cards, which I can then, instead of drawing, heal Daw. I never actually successfully dealt damage to a model with an upgrade, so I wasn't drawing cards. But he heals 1, I spend an action to focus, and I then attack Joss instead. Because I figure, again, I need to deal with him, and I could cheat my trigger on the attack, lets me place into base contact, so I could leap him out and put him near the rest of my crew, because Kyle still had a buried Miner.
I still had a Miner, yeah.
And I was worried about the Miner popping out on Daw and just wailing.
Which I have done before.
Right, and you still had, at this point, you had like
I still had, well, I
like
drew 2
six
more cards.
in hand.
I
Yeah,
drew
so you
2
had
more.
7 cards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even with Willpower 3, with that many cards, and if you're going to kill Daw, you're going to cheat over my Terrifying and hit me. So I figured if I can go into like the middle of my crew, positionally, I don't know if you could legally pop out a Miner there. And with deployment not within that amount of range. And then it's a question for you.
I don't think I could have popped out behind him. I'd have to do something else.
Then it's a question of like, well, Joss, what do you want to do? Are you going to have Joss just kill Daw or Monty? If you can't do both, and maybe you just can't do it.
Yeah.
So I attacked
Joss. That happened in our previous game where I wasn't able to finish off Daw, and then he just healed the full.
So then it was a ballsy play. Spoilers, doesn't work out, but I figured it was the best I could do. And I needed an upgrade on Joss to make it easier to kill him, maybe. So I hit him. I deal no damage again. I think I actually hit severe damage, and you stoned it and with armor.
I think
so
I
dealt no
prevented
damage,
3 on it.
but I get the upgrade regardless. And that was the big one, and I still got the trigger to place in base contact to pseudo-hide Daw. And then that was Daw.
Yep. I thought Daw was maybe going to run away. The fact that Joss hadn't gone yet and you put him right next to him, I'm like, all right, I don't need to go with him yet. He's not in threat of dying. Right. Like, the 2 models that could have done it, maybe Mad Dog could, but honestly,
Mad Dog
being engaged...
friendly fire and concealment.
Yeah, it was unlikely for him to do it, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to get my Windigo into a threatening position for turf war. So he just kind of swung around now that outflank was scored, and I don't need to be back there until round 5. He kind of swung around, and you can't really see the turf marker, but it's kind of right where that light is there.
Yeah.
And he was just he was in position to run over there and flip it the next turn as needed. So that was my turn, and then you kind of in turn responded to that.
I in essence did the same thing. I double walked that hang up into base contact with his turf marker. Either I'll flip it and then claim it myself, or make him unbury a Miner on me. Just prevent me from doing that next turn.
Yep, and then I decide, okay, fine, I will go Joss then. And Joss started by doing his power push, so he pushed himself 2 inches out, so then I could charge in, so I could get the plus flip to damage and generate a power token, because diesel engine's really nice being able to push out and do that. So I end up charging Daw. I cheat in the red joker, which was in my hand at this point, and I hit you. I end up doing 4 irreducible damage, because between the plus flip from the charge
and crit,
and from critical damage that I hit, I was able to get it to 4. And at this point, you were left with the decision: do I discard a card and save Daw, but then I get hit with another attack, or do I just let Daw
It was
die?
one. I believe at that time it was 1 card left. So Daw was
No, I didn't crit. I did the stun on this.
Oh yeah, you did the AoE
but
stun.
I hit moderate,
injured and stunned. Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't worth saving Daw. I had 1 card left, so 2 hits from Joss was still gonna kill him.
Yeah.
Because it's irreducible, so I can't stone it. And I don't have cards to switch it. And then 1 card is a proc on Monty's Eternal. And I figure Monty at this point is the new leader of the crew, so we'll just eat the hit and pray
I think it was the right
salvage
call.
The game.
I kind of wondered why you didn't save Daw, but then I realized
it was one where Daw couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And he
I was going to kill him that round probably.
So it would have been a waste of a card.
Yeah. So I end up, like I said, I killed him. So I didn't officially score Assassinate yet, but I was going to score the end of the game. So I knew I had it. And then I went ahead and attacked Monty with my second attack. I end up, I believe...
You proc hard to kill.
Okay, yeah. I put you to hard to kill, which didn't matter because I couldn't ever pop
and I had held on to the 1 card to make sure if you pop him, he goes back to Eternal with hard to kill.
Yeah.
So it should have been at that point impossible for you to kill him that round outside of some insane Silent One and the Miner
attacks
would have to hit every attack.
I think it's
for
possible,
max
but
damage.
yeah.
Like, it was possible,
hard.
but it would have required a lot of good flipping.
So I also end up hitting the trigger, as I mentioned earlier, to pulse out the injured one and stunned on the nearby model. So
that was a huge deal because then Monty in essence is a min 2 model, and his whole thing is giving out staggered, or if you're already staggered, then manipulate, like execute or doing things. And against when he's stunned, he can't do that because he's gonna always hit you at a stat 6 against your staggered movement. Your 3, I'm gonna hit you, but I never dealt damage. So then I went with the engineer, and I had taken, like I was talking about, Vendetta on the silent one. So I shot and spent that focus into the engineer, or into the silent one with the engineer. I missed.
I will admit, I didn't see the Vendetta. I was curious what the second one was.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure, and I thought that was very ballsy because the silent one stayed back. So I wasn't really registering, even though you end up taking a bunch of shots against her and you kept missing. I just didn't dawn on me what you were doing.
I think you thought it was like, oh, he's just removing the healers.
Yeah, and that's
the blasters, which
like
was kind of my thinking. Yeah. It's like, well, it's a good utility model to kill because the healing's super annoying, the ice pillar creation super annoying, the incidental blasting, also the auto slow it gives out. What the hell? It's really annoying. So putting a fair amount of like minor model support into killing it wouldn't look suspicious. Yeah. So I might be able to sneak in Vendetta.
Sure.
To do it.
Okay. So I end up just returning fire. So my thinking is if I can blast off of it onto Monty, I can pop him. So at least make him discard the card for Eternal, and then I can set up for the kill shot on him with something else. So I ended up focusing and taking the attack. I do 2 damage to the engineer and blast onto it, but Monty stones and reduces it to 0 damage. So it didn't matter.
It was worth the stone.
And then I ended up eating the corpse right next to her to heal for 1 because it was there, and I'm just like, nobody else is going to be back here to use this probably, so I'll go and do it.
I went with the very forward guilty, and at that point it couldn't really do anything going backwards, but Raspi's right there. She can't shoot when she's engaged. If she's engaged, you have to spend an action to walk out. So I charge Raspi and miss. I attack her again and miss.
This is where I start hitting like 12. So I was just flipping 12.
Bonus action and miss as well. The bonus action was it was going to miss regardless, but the melee attacks movement into it's a movement attack. Your stat 4. Yeah, figured I would get at least one of those off.
I was kind of surprised I dodged
and start
too.
Pinging damage onto her. I had taken assassinate, and a guilty could do it, attacking the movement, and at least start threatening it. Mad Dog is slowly going to get there. He can charge and shoot. Eventually, I figured I might be able to do it, but I whiffed 3 attacks in a row, and at that point, it's not happening.
So I then go with the miner. He just gets more soul stones. I think at this point I was
standard
out or almost out, so I'm like, all right, I need to start getting soul stones back, and then he just focuses and berries to pop out wherever I end up needing him.
Yeah. I went with Mad Dog.
I think this was the correct play.
Right. It was painful to do, but it was the correct thing. I couldn't afford to lose another turf marker, so he just charged back, and he happened to one-shot the Wendigo on pure luck. I moderated on a triple negative.
You are triple negative, and did moderate.
I'm known for it, I guess.
At least against
but it's a complaint I get a lot at tournaments. It's a talent, I guess. It just wasn't actually that useful this game. But obviously Mad Dog would have been much more beneficial being aggressive, but that slow took him out.
Yeah.
So I had one action. Simply walking wasn't beneficial, and I couldn't shoot into the engagement because of concealment. Like, too many minuses, can't get around it. So at least protect the turf marker. It doesn't actually matter. I'll never be able to get another one, but the idea was sound.
So then the next thing that happens is my other miner ends up unbearing next to the hanged because I didn't want him to just unclaim my marker at this point, and I knew that was going to be a threat. It had already gone this round, but I wanted to make sure that I had it ready for the future rounds. So it did its kind of stunned itself, got a soul stone, then it focused and unburied right next. Or sorry, I think it unburied first and then
Unburied,
focused,
focused, yeah.
to prep for the next one. Oh wait, no, that was actually wrong because I did attack with that turn. So never mind. I was looking at the wrong one. Yeah, I did attack, but you blacked it.
No, you hit the soul stone to damaged away.
Oh, was this the... Oh, no, yeah,
It was
next round.
Next round I attacked
It's next round you did.
And I Black Joker
I swear, every time this thing attacks, it's
Yes.
I flip a red or he flips a black.
But
Anyways.
the attack was fine. I go with my guilty that's in the center. I attack Joss and don't end up doing anything. The second attack, I think, actually damages him for 1 because you didn't bother soul stoning it. The guilty was stunned, so I couldn't use a trigger. But I finally dealt 1 damage.
Yeah,
to,
you were very happy about that.
Joss. I think at this point this is my 6th or 7th attack into him. I won't count the bonuses because those are a minus.
For me.
And I was able to draw a card, which was very beneficial. Unfortunately, it was the end of the round, so it didn't actually matter. But I went 2 stones at that point. Arcanists were out at this point, so I went into Lady. She was my last one, and she just focused again, and I think she attacked Joss.
Yeah. We're not sure because we didn't... notes weren't clear.
It wasn't
but I think,
important
it
enough
wasn't
to
important.
really matter. End of round, though, we both scored turf again because I'd claimed 3 already, and then you got a turf. You already had outflanked, so it was 3-2.
3-2. No end-around picture. Sorry, guys.
Climbing up from there.
So and again, turn 4, we forgot to take pictures of our
Got
hands.
too caught up in the game.
Yeah, we were a little distracted in that. But I end up winning initiative. I don't think you even bothered cheating at this point.
No, there was nothing meaningful I could have done.
So I end up getting staggered on Mech and Joss when they act, or when the turn starts.
Yep.
I get 4 fate tokens. I get 1 pass token because we've evenly killed models. So I killed Doll and you killed a Windigo. I think that's a good trade.
Yeah.
And then I gain shielded. And then I end up going
Windigo's
with...
really good model, man.
It
It's
is.
very much worth it.
I end up going with Joss to start with. I think maybe I can at least get Monty low. Maybe... Probably can't kill him because of the hard to kill stuff, but... I end up attacking, and I do the 1 damage to kill you. Then I do the push out, and I charge back in.
Procs Eternal, and then you charge back in.
Yeah, I do trying to do the 4 damage, or at least 3 damage, and you just flipped the Red Joker.
Yeah, it was a good time to flip the Red Joker.
So still at 4.
Nat 20 on that defense, still at 4. And Tools for the Job is a super good ability to have when Red Joker's a thing in the game. The Engineer just goes and picks up the Red Joker and discarded...
Discard a card. It doesn't matter.
And then from there, I just attacked the Silent One. I was slowed from before the Silent One shot me. I was slowed.
Yeah,
I just took an attack at Silent One and missed again. I didn't cheat the Red Joker or any of the other. At this point, I had a fair number of 11. I think I had 3 11s and a Red Joker in a hand.
Good hand, yeah.
Because I kept hitting, or I kept on my actions. It was like, I flipped pretty badly. Oh, you flipped a 12. And with an 11, I still can't hit you. So I just had a bunch of severes that I couldn't actually use, which was kind of funny. But I shot and missed again.
Yep. So I immediately go with the Mech Rider. The Mech Rider tries to do more damage to Monty. I think maybe at this point I was a little over-focused on trying to kill Monty, but I thought maybe you had Vendetta.
Right.
I think that was my big
that
worry,
was when
is that
you
Monty
talked about
had
that.
it.
You thought Monty had Vendetta on Joss, and the tar pit nature...
The fact that you were keeping me, and the fact that you were trying so hard to keep Monty up. So I'm just like, all right, well, maybe he does have points for this, or maybe even claim jump at this point. I don't really know for sure. So I'm just like, let's just put him down so I don't have to worry about it, because he's one of the... Him and Mad Dog are the most likely, but at this point, Mad Dog's kind of off.
Yeah,
far
Mad Dog's
away.
out of the game.
So he's not out, but I'm not too worried about him just yet. Anyways, the Mech Rider ends up walking and then charges, does 2 damage to Monty. And then I do the Revel to immediately reactivate Joss because I have 5 tokens at this point. He does his same thing where he pushes back, then charges in. I miss because you cheat the Red Joker once again.
I think you flipped a 13 too.
I
you
think
flipped
I
a pretty high card, and it was.
And then
I flipped a 3, and then toss the red Joker in to block it. Because
Yeah.
it was pretty clear that, like, it was going to be Mech Rider, and then the reactivate is like, oh, this is what you're going to do.
Yeah. So I then attack again. This time I managed to finally hit. I think.
Yep.
I think I made it. I don't know if I cheated in a higher card or whatever.
I think so.
But the more important thing is I hit the stun and injured. So I put him back to 1. So he's now ready to kill. And I stun and injure in a pulse.
Again.
So putting him at a lower stat to make him more hittable also hits the guilty. I think everything else was just out. The other 2 models.
Yeah, it was just the guilty
out.
and Monty.
Yeah. So then Monty goes.
And this is one. So Monty just attacks and misses on that against. This is impressive. He attacked a stat 3 movement and missed because you flipped like a 13, and I couldn't cheat that. And then I attack again, and so you took 1 damage after armor, and I couldn't use a bonus action because the stunned I couldn't do trigger, so it didn't really matter. I was passively dealing damage to Joss though. If you have staggered when you activate a round, you take a damage. Never.
Then comes the unfortunate.
Challenges.
The cards start to go a little bit in your way.
This was awesome.
This was classic Kyle. This happened to me in a tournament recently, as I talked about. So Raspy ends up going. She tries to disengage. On a triple negative flip, you hit moderate, or something.
I mean,
like
in
that.
fairness, your movement's 4. All I need to do is hit moderate.
All I need to do is not for you to hit all moderates.
Like I said, I'm known for this.
I know. Yeah. So you stop me from pushing, so that's 1 shot into Monty that I don't get. She then disengages again successfully. You still hit me, but I'm able to get away
I hit the min on the damage.
Then I have to spend a stone just to attack into, and then I go through the pillar that you can see right there, and then I shoot, but you cheat another high card in.
Yeah,
and
I cheated
like
a 12, and with cover, I'm still an 18 because the cover negated the injured, and you couldn't you couldn't get over me, which was nice. I go with the hanged. Again, really nice attacking that movement, and I missed you twice.
See, Soulstone Miners have a move of 5, though, so I actually like you attacking that stat. At least for them.
Yeah.
Their willpower's garbage.
Right, and then, so this is where it doesn't super matter, but on my bonus action to give him an upgrade, you flipped the red Joker, which is treated as the black.
No,
or
you
I
flipped
the
black.
Right. So either the hanged treats for himself the black as
because
the red.
I flipped the black, I'm like, you missed, and you're like, no, it's not. It's the red Joker. And I was like, ugh, that's right.
But it wasn't an attack as the bonus action to give you the curse, and then I declared the trigger to make you discard a card or take 3 damage, whatever.
Which
it didn't really matter. You have armor 2, but I got the upgrade on him, which lets me potentially push you.
Yeah.
Which is the important thing because I either need to push you away so I can claim the marker at some point, or when you inevitably go back for outflank to just like sneak it in.
Yeah. So the silent one then goes and continues the try to kill Monty train. Like I said, this was probably a little overkill in my case, but again, I thought maybe there was a point there.
And you didn't want him to have to like reset Eternal and then do it all again.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes sense.
So I end up focus and attack, but I think you ended up, you cheated
just
another high card
again.
and I miss. I think I just didn't flip high enough, and I don't know if I had any high cards left in my hand, or it just wasn't high enough. So it went back to you as Monty still is alive.
The guilty charges back into Raspy and actually starts hitting her now. I think I hit her twice for a total of 4 damage, and the bonus action, I'm assuming it missed because your stat's better, and I have a TN on it.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter. But I'm now whittling Raspy down. You're out of soul stones.
Temporarily.
Right, temporarily. But like this is the quote-unquote ideal time to go in because I might be able to proc assassinate.
Once you did the 4 damage, the light kicked on. It's like, well, maybe he does have assassinate, and you're just trying to get me to half.
No one else was close enough to take advantage of it. But I was almost there.
Yeah, so I definitely was a little concerned. I'm like, okay, I want to try to keep her above half, and that was my main goal at this point. It's like, I wasn't too worried. I'm like, well, I got a full health Silent one right there. So if my thought was like, oh, if you drop her below half, I can heal her up.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen this round because she was above half at this round. Nothing else was in range. But I was thinking next round if something got her down, then I would just heal her back up, was the thought process. So anyways, though, I went with my other, well, the miner that was in the slap fight.
Yep.
And this is where I took the 2 damage, discarded the card to get rid of the curse. And then I failed the terror check on the first one because I have 3 willpower. And then the second one I flipped high finally. And
you just missed.
Then I just whiffed the attack.
It wasn't really worth cheating it.
Yeah, I wasn't going to cheat anything.
You weren't going to kill him outside of like 2 red Joker damages.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth
I got a soul stone back, though.
You got a soul stone, and that's all that matters.
That's what matters.
I went with Mad Dog and decided to like bring him back into the game, so he just double walks, maybe thinking I can get him if he's fast into range of a pop shot into Rasputina to proc assassinate or something maybe useful. I don't know.
Yep. And the other miner ended up going. Unsurprisingly, it popped out on the outflank on the other side. Now that the hang was kind of far away, it was kind of safe to come out there, and it just did its normal, got me a soul stone, and got in position.
Sets up for outflank. I go with the cross guilty. It attacks Joss 3 times and misses 3 times. 3 more misses to Joss. Again, very impressive attacking his stat 3 movement because of staggered. And then you're out, so I go with the lady, and this is when she moves over, so you have to discard to cheat with the Mech Rider. And this is where like her cheat aura never came up. But with the lady going, that's the end of the round. We didn't actually score points. Neither of us.
Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, you got the assassinate was going to happen, but still,
but no actual points were on the table.
3-2 game, but Kyle has it. Going into turn 5, we remember to start doing cards hands
I remember.
Again.
So you can see my hand again. Pretty good hand.
Good hand.
I think I had pretty decent hands overall.
You really did.
Which is weird, because normally when I play Brien, I usually have at least a couple rounds.
Of course, it'd be the game that we're putting on for the public that...
Otherwise, it would have been... Something would have went wrong with it, and I deleted it, and that's how it was spliced now.
Yeah.
So, then we see...
I very randomly play it out. I have
average hand,
I have cards.
I have cards.
Yeah.
So...
It's good.
It ended up being that I won initiative innately. No cheating or anything like that. I think I stoned for cards at this point because I had a couple low cards. And I had 3 soul stones at this point.
Yeah, you had the resources.
I had enough that I was like, I think I'm okay. So I go first, get a pass token. Joss goes again.
Yep, takes another damage from that aura.
Yep, he deals 1 damage again
Procs
because you were at 1 health. So
Procs Eternal.
Proc Eternal, I also do the stun and injured on the first attack this time to kind of pulse it out and lower it. Do the pushback charge again. This time I do the full 3. This is what was supposed to happen last time to put you exactly the 1, and he ends his turn, so Monty is set up with injured and 1 health.
Monty went, I attacked Joss and dealt 0 damage from armor and stones, and I attacked him again for 1 damage. Monty was going to be dead, so I figured to go with him just for the activation. He used stun, so no bonus, and then you go and kill him.
Yep, Mech Rider activates, kills him with the first shot, and then I draw a couple cards from that because I think that one I had cheated for the attacks because I remember there was one round where I did have to cheat a bunch. I think this was it, and I drew back up, at least a couple cards back with the Mech Rider. And then I rode with me to bounce out a little bit, and then walked to get in position for outflank. So I was set up to get my second point.
At this point, I was just fighting for diff, in essence, and the engineer is now kind of free to do whatever it wants. It doesn't have to worry about concealing anyone, but it can give itself focus with that bonus action. So I do that, cycle some cards, I tools for the job, whatever, and I take a shot at the Silent One figurine. I have 2 Severes in hand, I'm focused. I should be able to at least proc a Vendetta point by putting you to half. I happen to hit the Red Joker on the attack, which gives me crit strike. And then I cheated in the Severe to kill you because crit strike gives me a Severe of 6. And you just kind of were like, okay. Now, it was a big deal because
it was a big deal. This was my healer.
Raspy.
And I thought Raspy is like, oh, now Raspy is not going to heal up. So I was
it got me 1 point, and then you went with Raspy.
Yeah. Yeah, my immediate response was like, okay, well, now I need to make sure Raspy doesn't go below half. So I end up creating 1 pillar from an action, and then the second action I did the trigger.
You read Joker the first one, I think, to get the trigger to do the next one.
The second one. The first one I only got a single one out, and then the second one I got the 2 out. I think it was something like that, or I flipped the right suit or whatever.
Yeah.
And I generated the 2, and I wanted to position them so 1, you'll have to discard a card to maybe get slow, and then if you do the destructible train thing, you're only going to pop 1 and not both of them, and then you can only take 1 attack, and then as soon as you attack me, I either stone it to prevent it, or I can reduce it to 0 with
You said it that it was almost guaranteed it was impossible to damage you.
Yeah, I was setting it up to make it impossible so you couldn't knock her down.
And then you reinforced it by slowing and staggering Mad Dog.
I had an extra AP, so I measured it out, and I was able to shockwave. I thought you were going to cheat it and just dodge it.
At that point, I couldn't.
I didn't know that, though. And I remember just like, let's just do
this. And
that
was basically guaranteed of the game. It was impossible for...
Yeah.
So, theoretically, if I was able to get Mad Dog in position to blow it to hell, to remove both those ice pillars around Raspy, the Guilty could have done it. But with that off the table, you couldn't. I went with the Hang, disengaged from the Miner, and then walked back and tried to put a curse up on...
Well, you did. You put the curse on the corner one.
On the Miner that's for up flank. Trying to be cheeky that I can push you after the activation and then you won't get outflank.
At that point,
I technically reminded you could take the damage to remove it. Yeah. You remembered it already. But it wasn't one that was going to be the gotcha because I had already lost. It didn't really matter.
That one, I just immediately went with it. Took the damage and discarded the card, which I had. And then I got a soul stone for myself and then just focused and sat there. At that point, you were just like, okay, this is pretty much done.
We called it, because we could have played out the other 4 activations, but there was no way I could have affected the actual outcome of the game. You get your assassinate point and outflank. I got my vendetta because engineer was still on the table. Yeah. Silent was dead, and that was it. So it ended with my 2 turf points and a vendetta against
my 2 turf, 2 outflank, and 1 assassinate. So 5-3 ended for Raspy. So as you can see here, some pictures of the end of the game and how the table was laid out. This I actually did remember to do is go through and take some shots to make sure you kind of got a layout of where everything was at the end. I think it was an interesting game in the sense that, one, I thought it would be a good game because there weren't going to be any crazy gotchas because we both played the matchup before.
We've done it a couple times.
So it's okay, it's hopefully not going to be a blowout. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing, because blowout games are probably not the most entertaining thing to listen to, watch, that sort of thing. And I think it was interesting because you got to see some text choices, and I think especially with DAW, you kind of need to take tech picks.
You really do.
Because if you don't, you're going to have a really bad experience unless you just happen to be lucky and have a model that can deal with them.
Well, and that's where I think, now having played this at least 5 times, I think, is Raspy on her own, it's not that difficult for Jackdaw. It's when you bring in the Mech Rider, okay, I can handle it.
Yeah.
With the addition of Joss.
Joss was the
3 of them working in tandem, you've negated now the majority of my crew's, my non-personal tech pieces, my whole thing. And you're generating so many cards, so many soul stones, I can't chip you down.
The thing that I realized I didn't put together with DAW in particular, that a lot of your stuff is you have to deal damage to me to do it. And having a bunch of soulstone users
with armor,
was able, with other defensive tech, I was able to basically prevent you from doing any of that.
So effectively, I don't know how to quantify it, but the vast majority of the things that that makes Jackdaw unique and special and is why they're good was just removed from the text of my cards. The terrifying off the table. The drawing the
Yeah.
cards off the table. The force discards. Well, I need you to be staggered. Well, it's after damaging. No, it doesn't matter. I'm not damaging you because you're doing so much prevention and reduction. So
Now, to be fair, I think I was kind of lucky on the stoning. Like, I think
yeah,
as far as like Joss stoning, I hit a lot of moderates.
you hit
and
a lot of
high
moderates,
cards
but it was
for
also that my min damage is very low.
Yeah, I think the main problem was with the engineer. You had to do so much.
It was too many resources.
It was too intensive, and it also screwed up your activation, or you couldn't just
Right.
go when you wanted to with it.
like,
it kind of forced you to want to go early.
It probably would have been more beneficial to drop it, take those 6 extra stones,
put
another upgrade on. Probably like Servant of Darker Powers on Mad Dog and just say, screw it. Mad Dog's going to be an aggressive bomb and just try to do damage, distract you enough for the rest of the crew to like jump in, and have 7 stones then for Daw or Monty, or in this case, a bombing Mad Dog, just to like slaughter you. Well, theoretically slaughter you.
Yeah.
But like, I think that engineer is cute, and it could have been really good, but it was so efficient and so effective, it hurt me.
Yeah. And I will say Joss just did incredibly well for me this crew. I like the diesel engine on him combo. That's one I hadn't tried yet. I'm just had the extra points. I'm like, you know what? Let's just go heavy. And yeah, having a bunch of Soulstone users be the ones that were going in helped a lot. Because like you said, I didn't take any tear checks, which is weird. Barring like the Soulstone miner who had to take a couple.
Which is
that was like the only tear checks I took the entire game.
Like when they're attacking, they're not meant to like kill things. It was just like, well, you're not getting this point.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
did their job perfectly.
They did their jobs. I mean, I generated a ton of Soulstones from them, which normally they die.
Like
I've never generated that many Soulstones from them.
You came in with 4 stones, and you got a Soulstone from them.
I got roughly 10 stones because they.
Right. So you spent.
I spent
at
all
minimum 14 stones over that game, which that's in essence 2 models.
Yeah.
Right there. Like, you spent 2 Soulstones worth of models on just screwing me. Like
well, they paid for themselves, basically.
And then some.
They were 1 Soulstone models for me.
Yeah.
And that's why I like them. That being said, though, before everybody screams, oh, OP, yes, they are very good. But you kill them. Because I've seen plenty of games where people just kill them.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Like, the one model in my crew that can do it, Mad Dog, was never in a position to do it.
We discussed this after the game, and I was like curious why you didn't put him in position to do that. Because I feel like he could have, and he would have affected the board better.
I never felt...
Especially with the outflanking.
Like, realistically, I never felt that I would actually be able to get a shot. And if that's what he was doing, that meant... You were just going to ice pillar.
I mean, it's a 13-inch. No, I wasn't. I only had a silent one in Rasputina, and that's it. And I had to deal with Daw and Monty. I couldn't just.
Yeah.
Like, sure, if I spent a turn unloading in him, that's the thing you have to understand about Rasputina. She doesn't kill stuff so much as except for Daw, because Daw is like an actual exception. Like she tends to just like disable you.
Right.
But which is painful with her because like there's a lot of choices you have to make, and it's very easy to make the wrong choices. And if you just fail, if you fail to disable a model you really need to disable, it's like, well, that thing's just going to wreck me now because I wasn't able to get slow or stunned on it or whatever I needed to do to prevent it from being able to do what it wants to do. So thankfully,
I don't know, like it felt really from not the get-go, but when I messed up the totem and guilty attack, the blasting,
sure,
like from there specifically, but also when like you were able to slow Mad Dog, like from there it really felt like, okay, there's not really anything I can do because my actions just were not generating value.
So anyways, that was pretty much the end of the battle report. Let us know what you think we could do better. I already have some ideas of how to improve besides just taking all the pictures as opposed to forgetting about it and getting distracted. I will admit, if you've never tried to do a log, like actually keep track of everything while playing a serious game, it can get challenging because it's very easy to be like, wait, we gotta quickly like write notes down real fast and take pictures and stuff.
Like a checklist.
Yeah. Well, you really need to have like 2 other players
Yeah,
playing.
2 players and then someone production.
And speaking of which, that's hopefully the idea for the next one. We're going to try to line up a couple. Brian will be playing as he's just easily accessible to do these. And then we'll get another local player, probably Doug, if he agrees to it. And then do another sort of style thing. But this time I will stay completely independent.
The key is we just say Doug's already playing. And then since it's out in, it's already been
so
published,
they has to
Doug literally cannot say no.
Yes, that's true.
That's how you do it.
Okay,
so
Doug,
I'll be playing Doug.
You're doing it.
We'll decide on masters in a pool at some. Maybe you guys will do that for us. However, I'm going to be playing Doug for the next one.
Yes.
Boom, done.
Probably going to be Ironsides because that's what Doug specializes in.
He's been terrorist though.
He's been. Yeah, that's fair. I think since he did the Third Floor's Wars, people would like to see him play if he does.
Oh, that's fair.
So
he did.
We'll see if we can get him to play.
The Third Floor Wars Ironside Spotlight. Check it out. It's really good. You'll hear a lot of things about Ironsides you probably don't know because most people kind of disregard her. She's quite good.
I think she is.
Listen
good
to it.
Yeah.
You'll learn some stuff.
Exactly. All right. So until next time.
Have a good one.